Hello again and welcome back to our course on Excel 2013. In this section we're going to open Excel again, take another look at the introductory screen, and then we're going to create a new workbook. So once again I'm using the keyboard shortcut on my desktop in Windows 8. Double click on that, Excel opens, and now you can see that on the recent files list the workbook that I opened during the previous section is now in the list, and as I work on further workbooks I'll find that their names appear in this recent files list here. So let's suppose now that we want to create a new workbook. We can start from the same place and we can choose blank workbook. I'll come back to blank workbook in just a moment. Let's have a quick look at some of the templates first. If you scroll down, and of course to scroll down, if you're using a touch screen, you can just scroll with your finger in the usual way. If you go down and look at the available templates, for instance, here's one, generic family budget. If I tap on generic family budget, what happens is the template details are downloaded from Microsoft. You can look at the description of what this template is, and there will normally be a rating as well. So other people who've tried this template will rate it in terms of what they thought of it on the basis of various factors. If you like the look of it and you want to give it a try, you click on Create and the template itself will be downloaded from Microsoft. So let's try this one. Let's click on Create. It's downloaded, and then when it's available it opens, and as you can see you've got a graphical kind of representation of a family's budget. You can see how the money spent by the family is split up here. There's some summarizing totals over here. Income $4,000, expenses $5,933, and cash flow, well, they've overspent in March. So you may wonder, well, where are all these numbers? Well, this page, this worksheet, note the tab down there, is really a dashboard. That means it's a summary of some other information. The second spreadsheet, the second worksheet, is labeled budget, and if I click on budget I can see where all of the various money entries are. There's quite a bit of information in there. Note that there is a scroll bar on the right that I can use to scroll up and down, and there's also a scroll bar at the bottom that lets me scroll left and right. Now of course you can do both of these things if you're using a touch device, just by using the touch device to scroll in the usual way. And then finally there's another worksheet, a setup worksheet, which actually establishes the categories. So for instance, it says that under daily living, there's a column here, the categories in daily living are groceries, personal supplies, clothing, cleaning services, etc. Now the general idea of these templates is that somebody has gone to the trouble of creating the mechanism to make this thing work, and you could take this, maybe adapt the categories to your own requirements, and once you put your own figures in there you should find that the dashboard will give you a good representation of your family's budget over the same period. Now of course you won't have the same figures as this other family, the Johnson family, and you probably won't have the same categories. You may want to summarize the thing in a different way, but this is a really excellent way of getting you started on setting up a workbook to perform a useful function, in this case in your home life. And what's more, even though this is intended to be used for a family budget, family cash flow, it would be very easy to adapt this to the performance of a small business, for example. Now it's true to say that many of the templates that are provided are for a beginner quite complex, and in order to use a template like this you're going to need to know quite a bit more about Excel. So I'm going to steer clear of these templates for the moment. We'll come back and look at one or two of the details later on. We're going to start off with some of the real basics here in terms of understanding how to enter and edit data, for example. So I'm going to close this one. I hope you can remember how to do that. Click on File to go into Backstage View, close, Now note in this case that Microsoft Excel thinks we may have created a workbook here and that we may have put material in it that we want to save. So it says, do you want to save your changes? Now what I've done there really is to move around and show you a couple of things. We haven't actually made any changes, and even if we had, I don't want to save them, so I'm just going to click on Don't Save. That means that this particular workbook will be closed, but it will not be saved on my computer. So click or tap Don't Save, and we're back to the empty Excel again. Now we really are going to create a new blank workbook. Now one way of doing that, if we go back into Backstage View and click on New, we see that same list. It's slightly differently arranged now because we've got a bit more space on the screen, but on this occasion I'm going to choose Blank Workbook. Now when you choose Blank Workbook, that's exactly what you get. You get a workbook. It has a default name, normally of Book 1. If you've been working in Excel for a while, created and worked on a few workbooks during one session, a new one might say Book 2 or Book 3 or Book 4, but we're just starting fresh here, so it's Book 1. And note there's one worksheet down here, and by default it's called Sheet 1. So there's our empty workbook to work with. Now in terms of putting some numbers on these workbooks, in a couple of sections time we're going to devote most of a section to entering and editing data and all the different types of data we might put in Excel. What I really want to show you now at the end of this section is how to save a workbook. So all I want to do is to put some numbers in this worksheet. It really doesn't matter what numbers you put in there as long as you put in at least one. Now at the moment when you've got a new workbook open, you'll find normally cell A, that's column A1, that's row 1, A1 will have a border around it with a little sort of square thing in the corner. I'll tell you about all this a little bit later on. But that is the currently selected cell. That's what we call the selection. And if on your keyboard you just type a 2 or anything else for that matter, you could put an A or a Z or a B or anything you like, you will find that will appear in that first cell. Now you may not want to do anything more than that at the moment. I'm going to go to B1 just by clicking in it. That moves the selection to B1. I'm going to put a different number in there, C1. Well, that'll do me for now. Notice that as you move to the next cell, look at the 4 in C1. It's on the left of the cell. As I click to the next one, you'll see it moves over to the right. Now I'll explain all that to you later on because there's quite a lot going on there and it's important to understand some of that. But that's all you need to do. Just put some numbers or letters somewhere on this worksheet, and then we're going to close the worksheet, but we're going to save it. Now you could just do File, Close, and then when Excel 2013 says to you, do you want to save it? You could say yes, but we're going to do this the professional way, and we're going to say File, and we're going to do Save As. Now Save As means I've not saved this before, so I've got to tell you what it's called. So I'm going to do File, Save As. Now I get the choice. Do I want to save to SkyDrive, somewhere on my computer? Do I want to add a place? I'll go for computer. There's that last folder we used with the examples in it. Let's use that folder. Let's go in there. Let's start putting our own workbooks in there. Now it's an Excel workbook, so its extension is .xlsx, but the file name I'm going to call Toby, that's my name, hyphen. You can call these what you like, but if you use my sort of naming standard you'll be able to follow a bit more clearly what we're doing. I'm going to call it Toby hyphen test hyphen exercise hyphen 01. So I'm thinking of these as my test exercises as I'm going through the course. So Toby test exercise 01, I'm going to put it in the same folder as the examples that come on the course. Click on the Save button, and that is now saved as a workbook with that name. And note at the top of the Excel 2013 window you can see the file name, just to remind you what it's called. So use your own naming system. try to be consistent, but you'll find them then in the same place as the other files. You could of course put these somewhere completely different on your computer if you want to. If you prefer to put them on a different drive in a different folder, it's entirely up to you, as long as you remember where you've put them. And then what I'm now going to do is to close this particular workbook. So that's easy enough. Just go to Backstage View, click on Close. Of course, I've just saved it, so it won't say to me, do you want to save any changes, because I've just saved the changes. So it closes immediately and I'm left with empty Excel again. So let's see, in this particular section we've opened an existing workbook and closed it again. We've looked at a template, we've created a new workbook from scratch, saved it with a file name, closed it, and we've once again opened and exited Excel all in the same section. So been a pretty busy section, this one. You probably earned yourself a little bit of a break. In the next section we're going to look at help, so please join me for that.
If this is your first time here, click on the subscribe button to get similar videos every week. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, new videos are uploaded to our YouTube channel. If you want to see similar videos, click on the links under Check Out These Tutorials by Simon Says It.